A brand new giant poll finds that the Walt Disney Company is dropping in favorability amongst Americans at an alarming rate. So, what is it that's causing it? What if we told you? Late night TV. It's the Jimmy Kimmel fiasco continuing on. Can Bob Iger do anything to reverse course? Or is Disney forced to face an America that rejects it? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Monday. It is a joy as ever to join you. We have an endeavor today, and it is explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. Folks, as we dive in today, consider clicking the like button, and we get started with thatparkplace.com, a website that if you're not yet bookmarked to, well, you should be. It's by Marvin Montanaro. Disney favorability plummets among both Democrats and Republicans after Kimmel fiasco. Geez Louise, this just keeps getting worse. For decades, Disney was the rare American brand that managed to transcend politics, and that's very true. Folks, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, nobody talked about Disney and politics. It was a kids' brand, and it was a brand that was beloved by families all over the nation. It says families from both sides of the aisle flocked to its parks, its films, and its streaming service without a second thought. But that era appears to be over. A new analysis from Jefferies, based on Morning Consult polling, shows that Disney's favorability has collapsed among Democrats and Republicans, marking one of the sharpest declines in the company's modern history. The catalyst? The suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live after false and inflammatory remarks made by Kimmel in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder. So, folks, I want us to go over here to, it's The Wrap, and it's being hosted by Yahoo Finance. This is a fantastic place for us to go because they've got the graphs we need. Kimmel fallout, Disney sentiment plunges among Democrats and Republicans alike, and I can't wait to show you what they believe is causing this. Consumer sentiment around the Walt Disney Company and Disney Plus has plunged following the temporary suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live and news of upcoming streaming price hikes. Wait a minute. They want us to believe that Jimmy Kimmel lied. By the way, he's not live. Why is it in the name? But he lied on Jimmy Kimmel Live about a national tragedy, and then he had to be yanked off the air because affiliates said, our consumers won't support this. But it began with him being yanked off the air. No, it didn't begin with him being yanked off the air. It began with him lying about a national tragedy. That's what, okay. The firm, which used weekly survey data from Morning Consult to analyze sentiment and brand awareness, found a sharp decline in Disney sentiment among both Democrats and Republicans in the last 2 weeks, with Democrats showing a larger drop than Republicans. Now, this is where things get interesting, and this is what I want to show you. For Democrats, the latest week marked the lowest sentiment for Disney in the last 2 years. For Republicans, it's just the lowest level since March. And lest you say, now wait a minute, Pro, Democrats dislike Disney more now. I need to dissuade you of that because there's something happening here that everybody needs to know about. Now, I promise, look, folks, I'm going to go to the charts. Okay, look, Pro's going to go to the charts. I promise. See those charts? See these beautiful charts with these giant drops? I'm going to go there. I promise. However, first, I need to show you why sentiment dropped more for Democrats than Republicans. There's a very obvious answer to this. Ariel Zilver from the New York Post, all the way back in 2023, says Disney's reputation takes massive hit amid feud with Ron DeSantis. There's Dylan. Hi, Dylan. How you doing? I don't know, Dylan. You don't look well. The Walt Disney Company's ongoing feud with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, again, this is from 2 years ago, has caused the Mouse House to plummet in a key gauge that measures the reputation of the most visible brands in America. The Bob Iger-led media giant plunged 12 spots to rank 77th in this year's Axios and Harris Poll 100, surveying the top companies out there. This came after the Florida situation, and you can see that the Walt Disney Company measured 77 out of 100, just above eBay and JCPenney's, and below Bed Bath & Beyond. Americans have a higher perception of McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Bed Bath & Beyond than the Walt Disney Company. This was a massive story, a huge drop for the company. Now, where did that drop come from, folks? Disney was battling Florida, and they lost. We told you they were going to lose. They did. Disney battled Florida. So the Republicans had already left Disney. They already recognized that Disney is a problematic company. And how could you not? How could you not Elio? How could you not Strange World? How could you not Lightyear? We can keep going. How could you not Proud Family, Louder and Prouder? You all know this. You all know this. How could you not? What they did with Star Wars and Marvel. Republicans, conservatives, had largely already left Disney. Now let's go back to the modern era. Today, Jefferies analyst James Heaney had this to say. This is clearly a PR hit for Disney, but the data implies a smaller impact on Disney Plus than the brand as a whole, which may limit the amount of streaming churn. Talking about how many subscribers are going to leave. Millions left Disney Plus, so, well, you know, it is what it is. I mean, millions left Disney Plus. That's the number. You don't have to come and opine on what the hit is going to be. We know. Like 1.4, 1.7 million subscribers exited. The saga began on September 17th when Disney pulled Jimmy Kimmel Live from ABC's airwaves after Nexstar Media Group and Sinclair Broadcasting preempted the late night show. That's when the saga began, folks. Again, these people are geniuses. You know, the saga began with the funeral. No, it didn't. The saga began with whatever happened that caused the funeral. The saga began with Jimmy Kimmel lying on national TV, and thus we went into this spiral. The move drew a wave of criticism, and the Jefferies data highlights the continued fallout from Disney's handling of the Kimmel situation. Democrats viewed the move as Disney capitulating to the Trump administration and an attack on free speech. Republicans slammed Kimmel's comments as insensitive in the wake of Kirk's murder. No, Republicans did not slam it as insensitive. These people should talk to a Republican sometime. We understand both sides of the aisle better than they understand themselves here, folks. Republicans slammed it as a lie, as a vicious, nasty lie that impugned Charlie Kirk's own supporters. Wild. I mean, it's wild how they gaslight. All right. So, here's what you need to see. The Disney positive negative sentiment over the last 6 months. There is some weirdness here, and I need you to understand what the weirdness is. This poll does not give you the data. Of course it doesn't. The poll does not give you the data in a way that is easy to read. Okay? So you can see here that we've got a 0, and then we go into the negatives. So what this poll is suggesting is that the overall positive, that Disney is like 20 or 30 points positive, or 10%. Okay, look back here. In April of 2025, Disney was at 10 points positive with Republicans. In other words, they've got a 60% approval rating with Republicans. Do you see how that plays out? 60% approval, but it sits at 10. What a strange way to do this. But, you know, you got to obfuscate a little bit. All right, so Disney declined significantly here in the Disney positive negative sentiment right in that last week of September. And you can see that for Democrats, they dropped from just under 40 to basically even, almost neutral, almost a 50%. So that would be a 40% swing for Disney in 1 week. Now, Republicans have a slight, they have a decrease as well. But remember what we looked at before? Remember what we looked at? The Republicans largely already aren't happy with Disney. This poll doesn't show that. So we've got two possibilities here. Either Republicans really rebounded suddenly and like Disney again. That's unlikely. Or this poll is not up to par with things like we've seen before out of Ipsos, Rasmussen has done a great job as well in the past, showing us just how much Americans dislike the Disney company, its direction. So I don't think that this poll is actually very handy in us figuring out the percentage of Americans who don't like Disney. I think some of the barriers that they put in place for us understanding exactly what, what the statistics are on this, what the polling results are. They don't even tell us what the polling results are actually. I think that this might have been an effort to show that Disney was just fine. And then I suspect that they found something else. And so what we're left with is we can see the signal. You see the signal here? Disney positive to negative sentiment. 2 years. And you can see the drop off, right? We can also see that this poll does find that Republicans had a far steeper dislike of Disney 2 years ago or 1 year ago, and it's been rebounding ever since. Which is to say that Disney was rehabilitating itself, perhaps. So maybe this poll is doing an okay enough job of that, of showing, even if it's very difficult to read. That said, Disney appears to have been rehabilitating its conservatives, and they lost on all ends. And that's what I really want to point out to you. That's really what I want to point out. I can critique the poll, and it should be critiqued because it's not transparent, it's not open. We don't know how this was asked of people at all. And so So there are problems with this. There are major flaws. What's not a major flaw is we can see that the Jimmy Kimmel situation actually dropped all groups, moderates, conservatives, and liberals simultaneous. And what that says to me is that the Disney company handled it about as badly as you can. Now, this has been reframed, and this is what's amazing about it is this poll is now nested inside a giant lie, right? Because the Wrap is reporting on it. The Wrap is telling you, well, it all began with Disney deciding to get rid of Kimmel, and therefore the narrative is this. Well, you know that's not true. You know that there was a preceding action, which was what Kimmel did, that caused him to get kicked off the air, that Disney was so desperate to save themselves that when the Hollywood talent agency said, we're not going to give you anybody else anymore until Kimmel's back, they actually, we believe, carted back in his stuff to the studio. Like, that's how canceled Kimmel was. They actually had to cart his stuff back into the studio, do a full reset, bring him back on TV. And what was the conclusion of all that? Folks, think about this. Every segment of America dislikes Disney more today than they did before. If Disney had held to their guns and said, no, we're done with Kimmel, then you would have had an outcry from the left. You would have seen a drop there, but you might have seen an uptick in conservatives, because conservatives would have said, hey, maybe this company is figuring things out. And I dare say to you, as the converse argument to this article, I dare say that you might have even seen the moderates begin to go up as well. And the reason I say that is because I believe that this is a 70-30 issue. I believe that what was done to Charlie Kirk has resonated way beyond just conservatism. I believe people of all spectrums of political life said, that is too far, this is too much, this is too terrible. And those celebrating it, we can't stand this. It's repugnant. It's a stench in our nostrils. So I think that if Disney had said, you know what, you crossed a line here, Kimmel, you're not coming back, I believe that conservatives and moderates would have seen the House of Mouse better. But instead, what Disney did is they annihilated them, right? That group's done with Disney now, again, because they've been reminded that this company can't stand you. The leadership at the top can't stand you. And then also, those on the left, they don't forgive. So when they got rid of Kimmel and then they brought him back, it's not like the left suddenly said, oh, yippee, they brought him back. No, because there's like a 15% part of the population that they don't forgive, they don't forget, and you've already transgressed them, Bob. So they're not going to like you now. You're anti-free speech, and what they see, the way they view this narrative of how this played out, is that they defeated you, Disney, as anti-free speech harbingers of hatred. They defeated you. They forced you to bring Kimmel back on, and it's not far from the truth. And the bottom line here is, as you can all see with those charts again, folks, Disney dropping 10, 20, 30, 40 points across the board with most of the demos. It's poorly managed. Worst thing of all, and I'll wrap it up this way. Worst of all for Disney, not only did they see this collapse in Americans and the way that they view the Disney company, but Dana Walden, who we believe Bob Iger wants to be the next CEO of the company, even if that's now a long shot. Dana Walden was the one on the phone call with Jimmy Kimmel. Her name plastered all over this, and we hear, folks, that there are angry individuals at high levels, angry that Dana Walden was put in this position, hurt feelings on all sides. Bob Iger, Dana Walden, the institutional investors, hurt feelings about this, and many black eyes from it. Folks, if you want to hear more about the drama going on behind the scenes at Disney, go to the Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/WDW Pro. All right, folks, that's where we're going to leave it for today. Thank you for coming our way. Disney dropping. What will be the ramification of this? Well, less Disney Plus subs, that's for sure. But what about the parks? If people don't have a good feeling about Disney, then that castle doesn't mean the same thing anymore. All right, click the like button, share, subscribe. Folks, drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And remember, if you see the hype button, then the time is right to hit the hype. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Oh, Yeah. Can't believe I made it. This thing is great. And now I have my own emoji on WDW Pro's channel.
Right? Hey, everyone's been wanting me for, like, ever. But just remember, you're like a pity vote.
Thanks.
By the way, do you want me to turn on the bubbles?
They are on. Aren't they?